In a quiet town in Japan, there lived a 17-year-old girl who loved music more than anything else. From the moment she could walk, she was drawn to sound. She would hum little tunes as she played around the house, and her family often found her tapping on any surface, pretending it was a piano. Her parents noticed her love for music early on and decided to get her a small keyboard when she was just 6 years old. It wasn't a grand instrument, but it became her companion and her window to the world of music. At first, she learned simple songs by watching videos and listening to her favorite tunes. Her small fingers would stumble over the keys, and she would get frustrated, but she never gave up. Each time she learned a new song, her excitement grew. Her parents encouraged her gently, always reminding her that patience and practice were the keys to mastery. Her mother would sometimes sit beside her, guiding her fingers, while her father would record her little performances on his old camera. Those recordings became treasures in their home, showing how her talent grew with every passing year. By the time she was 10, she had moved from the keyboard to a real piano. The sound filled her room in ways that made her heart race. She began to explore more challenging pieces, learning to read music properly and understanding the emotions behind every note. The piano was no longer just a toy or a hobby. It became a place where she could express everything she felt. When she played, she felt free, as if nothing in the world could stop her. Even though she loved music, life in her small town was simple and sometimes lonely. She didn't have many friends who shared her passion, and the local music school was small and modest. But she didn't let that discourage her. She would practice for hours every day, sometimes waking up early just to play before school. She found joy in little achievements, like mastering a difficult chord or playing a song without mistakes. Each small victory made her more determined to reach higher. Her teachers at school noticed her dedication and talent. They would often compliment her, saying she had a natural ability to understand music. But they also warned her that talent alone was not enough. It needed discipline, perseverance, and a love for learning. She took these words seriously. Every time she made a mistake, she would try again, sometimes practicing a single phrase over and over until it sounded perfect. She began to understand that music was not just about speed or skill. It was about conveying emotions, telling a story through sound. Despite the hours of practice, she remained a normal teenager in many ways. She enjoyed walking through the small streets of her town, visiting the local market, and watching the cherry blossoms bloom in spring. She liked simple things, like drinking tea with her family or reading a book in the quiet afternoon. But whenever she returned to her piano, the world around her seemed to disappear. In those moments, she was completely immersed in music, and everything else faded away. Her family was her biggest support. They didn't have a lot of money, so they couldn't afford expensive lessons or big concerts, but they gave her what mattered most: encouragement and love. Her parents would save little by little to buy her new sheet music or pay for occasional music workshops. They believed in her dreams, even when they seemed far away. Her younger brother would sometimes sit in her room, listening quietly as she played, amazed at how she could make the piano sing. Those small moments of shared joy strengthened her resolve. As she grew older, she began to dream bigger. She wanted to play in big concert halls, to perform pieces that would challenge her and touch the hearts of people she had never met. But with ambition came fear. She worried about whether she was good enough, whether she could compete with other talented musicians, and whether anyone would notice her beyond her small town. She often stayed up at night, thinking about her future and wondering what steps she should take to make her dreams real. One afternoon, her piano teacher gave her a new piece to learn. It was Chopin's heroic Polonaise. The moment she heard the first notes, something inside her stirred. It was bold, dramatic, and full of energy, and it spoke to her in a way no other piece had. She could feel the power and emotion in every phrase, and she knew that learning it would be a challenge unlike anything she had faced before. But instead of fear, she felt excitement. This was a chance to push herself, to test her skills, and to express something deeper than she had ever expressed through music. She started practicing immediately, spending hours each day at the piano. The piece was difficult, with fast passages, powerful chords, and intricate rhythms. Her fingers hurt from the repeated practice, and she often had to pause to rest. But every time she played a section correctly, she felt a sense of triumph that made all the effort worthwhile. Slowly, the piece began to take shape under her hands. The music became more than just notes on a page. It became a story she wanted to tell, a reflection of her determination and passion. As she worked on the Polonaise, her confidence grew. She realized that her talent was not just a gift. It was something she had to nurture with dedication and hard work. The more she practiced, the more she understood the nuances of the piece, the way it demanded both strength and sensitivity, how it could be bold in one moment and tender in the next. She began to feel a connection with Chopin, imagining what he might have felt while composing the music, and trying to bring that emotion to life through her own playing. Her parents noticed the change in her. She seemed more focused, more determined, and more alive. They could see that the music had become a central part of who she was. Her teacher encouraged her to enter small local competitions, to test her skills and gain experience. At first, she was nervous. Performing in front of others made her anxious, and she feared making mistakes. But she decided to take the risk, believing that every experience would help her grow. The first competition was intimidating. The room was filled with talented young musicians, and the audience included teachers, judges, and parents. Her hands trembled slightly as she sat at the piano, but when she began to play, the nervousness melted away. She focused on the music, letting the notes guide her. Even though she was young and inexperienced compared to some of the others, her performance stood out. The judges praised her expression and technique, noting that she had a rare ability to convey emotion through her playing. She didn't win first place, but she left the stage with a sense of pride and motivation to keep improving. After the competition, she returned home more determined than ever. She knew that talent alone would not carry her to the heights she dreamed of. She needed to work harder, practice smarter, and continue learning. She spent the following months refining her technique, exploring new pieces, and challenging herself with increasingly difficult music. Every day, she discovered something new about herself and about the piano. Music became a journey, not just a goal. Through it all, she remained grounded. She valued her family, her friends, and the quiet moments in her life. She understood that success was not only about recognition but also about the joy of creating something meaningful. The piano was her companion, her teacher, and her outlet. It taught her patience, resilience, and the power of dedication. As the year passed, she felt ready to take on bigger challenges. She dreamed of performing in larger halls, of sharing her music with more people, and of showing that a small-town girl could achieve something extraordinary. She knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but she was ready. Her heart was full of music, and her mind was focused on the possibilities. She had begun a journey that would test her limits, reveal her strengths, and ultimately allow her to break boundaries in ways she had only imagined. Every evening, as she sat at her piano and let the notes flow, she felt a sense of purpose and excitement. She was no longer just a girl practicing in a small room. She was a young musician ready to take the first steps toward a future where her talent could inspire others. And so, with determination in her heart and Chopin's music guiding her fingers, she continued to practice, dream, and prepare for the day when the world would finally hear the extraordinary music she had to offer. The young pianist felt a surge of excitement when she first saw the sheet music for Chopin's heroic Polonaise. The notes seemed to jump off the page, bold and demanding. She could sense the strength, the pride, and the passion in every measure. She had heard many pieces before, but this one felt alive in a different way. It was not just music. It was a story waiting to be told through her fingers. She knew it would be difficult, but something deep inside her told her she was ready for this challenge. She started by learning small sections, practicing slowly and carefully. Each day, she would focus on a few measures, repeating them over and over until her fingers remembered the movements. Sometimes she would stumble, hitting wrong notes or losing rhythm, and frustration would build. But she refused to give up. She took a deep breath, paused, and tried again. Each mistake became a lesson, each repetition a step closer to mastering the piece. Her parents noticed how serious she had become. They could see the intensity in her eyes as she sat at the piano. Sometimes her mother would peek into the room and quietly watch, not wanting to interrupt, yet amazed at the focus she saw. Her father would often leave little notes of encouragement on her music stand, reminding her that persistence was more important than perfection. These small gestures gave her strength, and she smiled each time she saw them, feeling the support behind every note she played. The girl found herself thinking about Chopin, imagining the life of the composer and the emotions he had poured into his music. She wondered what had inspired him to create something so bold and beautiful. Thinking about this made her play with more feeling, letting her imagination guide the expression of each phrase. She realized that playing the Polonaise was more than pressing keys. It was about telling a story with sound, showing both courage and grace. Each day she would practice for hours, carefully listening to how the piece sounded. She would record herself and play it back, noticing the small details she could improve. Sometimes she would feel proud of her progress, and other times she would feel that she was nowhere near good enough. But each feeling pushed her to try harder, and the music slowly started to flow more naturally under her hands. She also began to experiment with dynamics, learning how to play some notes louder and stronger, and others softer and gentle. She discovered that these differences could change the mood of the music completely, making it more dramatic or tender. It fascinated her to see how tiny adjustments could make the piece feel alive, almost as if it were speaking directly to anyone who would listen. She spent long evenings discovering these subtleties, letting the music teach her patience and attention. Her friends and neighbors began to notice the change in her playing. Occasionally, someone would drop by, and she would invite them to listen to her practice. Their reactions encouraged her. Some would smile with admiration. Others would nod with awe at how she played such a difficult piece with growing confidence. These small moments of recognition made her realize that her music could reach people beyond her family. She felt a new responsibility to play with both skill and heart. As she continued, she faced moments of doubt. Some days, the notes felt impossible, and her hands seemed too small or too weak to handle the demanding sections. She wondered if she could ever perform the piece in front of an audience without trembling or making mistakes. But instead of giving in to fear, she focused on the joy of playing. She reminded herself that even famous musicians had struggled at first, and that perseverance was the key. She learned to be patient with herself, accepting that mastery came one small step at a time. Her teacher played an important role in this stage. He would listen to her play, offer gentle corrections, and encourage her to express emotion, not just technique. He reminded her that music was about storytelling and feeling, not just hitting the right keys. With his guidance, she began to connect more deeply with the Polonaise, imagining the scenes of triumph and courage that each phrase represented. This understanding made her playing richer, more compelling, and more personal. One morning, while practicing a particularly difficult passage, she finally managed to play it without a single mistake. Her fingers moved swiftly and confidently, the rhythm steady and strong. A feeling of pride washed over her, and she knew that all the hours of practice had begun to pay off. She realized that the process of learning this piece had taught her more than she had expected. She had learned patience, persistence, and the power of expressing emotion through music. With each day, she felt more confident. She began to dream of performing the Polonaise in front of an audience, imagining how it would feel to share her music beyond the walls of her room. The thought made her nervous, but it also filled her with excitement. She knew she had a long way to go, but she felt ready to face the challenge. Her family noticed the growing confidence in her. Her parents often shared quiet smiles when she played, proud of the determination and passion that shone through her music. Her younger sibling would sometimes peek into the room, watching her fingers move gracefully across the keys, amazed at how she had transformed from a beginner into a young musician capable of handling such a powerful piece. The girl also began to reflect on her journey. She remembered the first time she had sat at a piano, struggling to play simple tunes, and compared it to now, when she could navigate complex passages with precision. She felt gratitude for every person who had supported her along the way, from her parents to her teacher, and even the small audience of friends and neighbors who had encouraged her. She realized that while talent was important, love, support, and dedication were equally essential. One evening, she decided to play the entire Polonaise from start to finish without stopping. She concentrated, letting the music guide her hands and her emotions. The powerful opening, the flowing middle sections, and the triumphant conclusion all came together. When she finished, she sat back, breathing heavily but feeling an incredible sense of accomplishment. She had conquered a piece that once seemed impossible, and in doing so, she had grown not just as a pianist but as a person. The experience taught her a valuable lesson. Great achievements are rarely instant. They come from consistent effort, learning from mistakes, and believing in oneself even when the path seems difficult. She realized that music, like life, requires both courage and patience. She felt ready to take the next step, dreaming of sharing her playing with a wider audience and showing the world what she could do. As the days went on, she continued to practice the Polonaise, refining every detail, adding more expression, and imagining how it would sound in a large hall. She visualized the audience, their eyes fixed on her, their hearts moved by the music. The thought both excited and frightened her, but she knew that this dream was worth pursuing. She felt a new sense of purpose, a determination to keep pushing herself to new heights. Her journey with Chopin's music had already changed her. It had taught her to listen carefully, to feel deeply, and to work tirelessly. She began to understand that music was a bridge between people, a way to communicate emotions that words could never fully express. She hoped that one day, her playing would inspire others, just as she had been inspired by the beauty of the Polonaise. Even as she worked tirelessly, she never lost her sense of joy. Each note she played reminded her why she loved music in the first place. She cherished the small victories and the moments of insight when a difficult section finally clicked. She knew that every hour she spent at the piano was a step towards something greater, a chance to grow, learn, and share her passion with the world. Through dedication, imagination, and unwavering focus, the young pianist continued to transform her love for music into skill and artistry. She was no longer just a girl practicing at home. She was becoming a musician capable of expressing profound emotions and telling stories through her playing. The Polonaise had become more than a piece of music. It was her challenge, her teacher, and her inspiration. And as she sat at the piano each day, she felt ready to continue her journey, knowing that every note she played brought her closer to the dreams she held in her heart. As the young pianist grew more confident in her playing, she began to dream of performing in front of people beyond her family and close friends. She knew that real progress required facing audiences, no matter how nervous it made her feel. Her first thought was to enter a small local competition. It was not a prestigious event, but it offered her a chance to test her skills under pressure and see how others reacted to her music. The idea made her heart race, and a mixture of excitement and anxiety filled her. In the days leading up to the competition, she practiced more intensely than ever. She focused on the heroic Polonaise, making sure that every note, every rhythm, and every dynamic was precise. She imagined the moment she would sit at the grand piano in the competition hall, the audience watching her, and the judges listening carefully. The thought made her nervous, but it also pushed her to perfect her performance. She reminded herself that preparation and practice were her allies. The night before the competition, she could hardly sleep. Thoughts of mistakes and judgment ran through her mind, but she also felt proud of how far she had come. She remembered all the hours she had spent practicing in her small room, the small victories, and the moments when music had made her heart soar. These memories gave her courage. She knew that she had a story to tell with her music, and she wanted to share it, no matter the outcome. The morning of the competition arrived, and she woke early, feeling both excitement and butterflies in her stomach. Her parents gave her encouraging smiles and reminded her to play with her heart, not just her fingers. Her younger sibling hugged her tightly, wishing her luck. The small gestures of support helped her calm down, and she began to feel ready. She carried her sheet music carefully, feeling the weight of her dreams along with it. When she entered the competition hall, she was struck by the size of the space and the number of talented musicians around her. Some performers looked older and more experienced, and their confidence made her question whether she belonged there. But she took a deep breath and reminded herself that she had worked hard and had a gift to share. She focused on the music, not on comparison, and prepared for her turn. Finally, it was her moment. She walked to the piano, adjusted the bench, and sat down. The bright lights and the quiet, expectant audience made her heart beat faster. But as soon as she placed her fingers on the keys, a calm settled over her. She began to play the opening notes of the heroic Polonaise, letting the music guide her. The powerful chords filled the hall, and she could feel the energy of the audience responding to her performance. As she progressed through the piece, she poured every ounce of emotion into her playing. The fast passages were challenging, but she moved with confidence and precision. She focused on the story she wanted to tell, the courage, strength, and triumph embedded in every note. With each measure, she felt herself becoming more connected to the music, and the audience began to lean in, captivated by her performance. There were moments when she felt the familiar tremor of nerves, but she pushed through, trusting her preparation. She remembered her teacher's advice, to let the music speak through her, not just to play the notes mechanically. She imagined Chopin himself guiding her fingers, and she allowed the music to flow naturally, expressing feelings she could not put into words. The audience could sense this connection, and their silence was not of boredom, but of deep attention. As she reached the climax of the Polonaise, the music became bold and triumphant. Her fingers danced across the keys, her arms moving with strength and grace. The audience was absorbed, feeling the emotion and power of the piece. In that moment, she forgot about fear, judgment, or competition. There was only the music and the story it told through her. When the final notes faded, there was a brief moment of silence, as if the audience needed to catch their breath. Then the applause began. It started softly, then grew louder, filling the hall with appreciation. The judges nodded with respect, some smiling and whispering to one another. She felt a wave of relief and joy, realizing that she had shared her music and touched the hearts of the listeners. Her nervousness melted away, replaced by pride in what she had accomplished. After the performance, she stepped off the stage, her hands still trembling from the intensity of the music. Her parents rushed to her side, hugging her tightly and telling her how proud they were. She felt tears welling up in her eyes, not from fear, but from happiness and the overwhelming emotions of the moment. For the first time, she felt that her dreams were within reach, that all the hours of practice had led to this experience of connection and recognition. The competition results were announced, and though she did not win first place, the judges praised her performance highly. They commented on the depth of her expression, the precision of her technique, and the confidence she displayed despite her age. Their words reassured her that her talent was real, and that she had the ability to grow even further. She realized that competitions were not only about winning but about learning, improving, and sharing music with others. Returning home, she felt a mix of satisfaction and determination. She knew that the Polonaise still held many challenges, and she wanted to refine her performance even more. The experience had given her confidence and a new understanding of what it meant to play in front of an audience. She began to see that music was not just a personal journey but a bridge that connected people, conveying emotions that words often could not. In the following weeks, she continued practicing diligently. She focused on expression, dynamics, and emotional storytelling, learning to convey every feeling embedded in the Polonaise. She experimented with tempo and phrasing, discovering how small changes could dramatically affect the mood of the music. Each day, she felt herself growing, not only as a pianist but as a communicator and artist. Her teachers and family continued to support her, offering guidance and encouragement. Her parents made small sacrifices to provide her with additional lessons and opportunities to perform. Her teacher introduced her to recordings of famous pianists, allowing her to study different interpretations and find her own style. She listened carefully, absorbing techniques and nuances, but always staying true to the way she felt the music. She also began to imagine herself performing in larger venues. The thought of playing in a grand concert hall, with an audience of hundreds or even thousands, thrilled her. She envisioned the lights, the stage, and the shared experience of music connecting everyone present. This vision motivated her to continue practicing, to push her limits, and to embrace the challenges that lay ahead. Alongside her intense practice, she maintained her daily life, attending school, spending time with family, and enjoying simple pleasures. She walked in the quiet streets of her town, listened to the sounds of nature, and allowed herself moments of reflection. These experiences influenced her playing, giving her new emotions and perspectives to express through music. She realized that life itself was a source of inspiration, and the piano was her way of interpreting and sharing it. Her journey with the Polonaise had also taught her resilience. She learned to face difficulties without giving up, to approach challenges with determination, and to find joy even in small achievements. Every mistake, every struggle, and every moment of doubt had contributed to her growth. She understood that mastery was a long process, but each step brought her closer to her dreams. The young pianist also began to notice the impact her music had on others. Friends and neighbors would often stop to listen when she played, expressing admiration and encouragement. Their reactions reminded her that music was a shared experience, a way to touch hearts and bring people together. She felt a responsibility to continue improving, not just for herself, but for everyone who would hear her play. Through this experience, she discovered that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it. Sitting at the piano, performing the Polonaise, and sharing her music with others required bravery, focus, and trust in herself. Each performance became a step in building confidence and refining her artistry. As she continued her journey, she realized that the heroic Polonaise had become more than a challenging piece to master. It had become a teacher, a companion, and a symbol of her growth. Every note, every rhythm, and every phrase carried lessons about patience, dedication, and emotional expression. She embraced these lessons, knowing that they would guide her in every step of her musical path. With determination and passion, the young pianist prepared for future performances, competitions, and opportunities. She knew that there would always be new challenges, but she felt ready to face them. Her love for music, combined with her hard work and courage, had opened doors to experiences she had once only dreamed of. She felt inspired to continue sharing her gift, confident that her journey with Chopin's heroic Polonaise was only the beginning of a remarkable story that was still unfolding. The young pianist had been preparing for months for a regional competition, one that would gather talented musicians from different towns. It was a bigger stage than she had ever faced, and the thought of performing in front of a larger audience both excited and terrified her. She had worked tirelessly on Chopin's heroic Polonaise, refining every note and dynamic, practicing until her fingers could play the passages almost automatically. Yet, she knew that no amount of practice could completely erase the nerves that came with performing in front of strangers. On the morning of the competition, she woke early, feeling a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. She packed her sheet music carefully and made sure her piano shoes were clean. Her parents were calm but supportive, offering quiet encouragement. They reminded her that the performance was not only about winning, but also about sharing her music and expressing herself. Their words helped her focus on the joy of playing rather than the pressure of competition. Arriving at the competition hall, she was struck by its size and elegance. The stage was grand, with a large, polished piano waiting for her. Rows of chairs were filled with fellow competitors, parents, teachers, and music enthusiasts. She felt a moment of doubt, noticing the confident expressions of the older participants who had performed in similar competitions before. But she took a deep breath, reminding herself of all the hours she had spent practicing and how much she loved the music. When her name was called, she walked to the stage, feeling the weight of both nerves and excitement. She adjusted the bench and sat down at the piano, placing her hands on the keys. The lights shone brightly, and she could hear the faint rustle of the audience settling in. A hush fell over the hall. For a brief moment, time seemed to pause. Then, she pressed the first notes of the Polonaise, and the music began to flow. The audience listened attentively as her fingers moved swiftly and precisely across the keys. Each passage, from the bold opening chords to the flowing middle sections, was filled with energy and emotion. She allowed herself to become completely absorbed in the music, forgetting about the audience and the judges. In that moment, it was only her and the piano, and the story of the Polonaise unfolded through her playing. As she played, she felt a surge of confidence. The techniques she had practiced tirelessly, the dynamics she had studied, and the emotional expression she had developed all came together seamlessly. The music was alive, powerful, and expressive. She could feel the audience responding, their attention captivated by her performance. Some leaned forward in their seats, others closed their eyes, letting the music reach them in a personal way. There were moments of tension within the piece where her fingers flew over complex passages. She felt the familiar rush of adrenaline, but she embraced it, letting it fuel her performance. Her practice had prepared her for these challenges, and she trusted her instincts and muscle memory. Each chord and arpeggio was executed with care, precision, and feeling. She realized that the Polonaise was more than a difficult composition. It was a chance to express herself fully and share her passion. As the performance reached its climax, the music became triumphant and bold. She played with strength and grace, feeling the power of the piece flow through her. The audience seemed to be holding its collective breath, drawn into the emotion and story she was conveying. She felt a connection not only to the music but also to everyone listening, as if the piano was speaking on her behalf, carrying her feelings across the hall. When the final notes faded, there was a moment of silence, a collective pause in which the audience absorbed what they had just heard. Then, applause erupted, filling the hall with energy and appreciation. She sat back for a moment, catching her breath, feeling a mix of relief, pride, and happiness. She had faced her nerves and performed with all her heart, and the audience had responded. The applause reassured her that her music had reached them. After stepping off the stage, she was greeted by her parents, who hugged her tightly, sharing in her joy and pride. Her teacher, who had accompanied her, smiled and praised her for her focus, expression, and technical mastery. Fellow competitors approached, offering compliments and encouragement. She realized that while competitions could be intimidating, they were also a place to connect with other musicians and learn from one another. The judges later praised her performance, highlighting the emotional depth and skill she displayed. They noted that her interpretation of the Polonaise showed maturity beyond her years. Although she did not win first place, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She understood that growth and experience mattered more than awards, and that sharing her music with an audience was its own reward. Returning home after the competition, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. She thought about the hours of practice, the challenges she had overcome, and the small victories that had built her confidence. She realized that each experience, each moment of struggle and triumph, had shaped her into a more skilled and expressive musician. She felt inspired to continue pursuing her passion, knowing that the journey was as important as the destination. In the following weeks, she continued to refine her Polonaise, focusing on subtle details and emotional expression. She experimented with phrasing, dynamics, and tempo, discovering new ways to convey the story within the music. Her performances became more confident, polished, and moving. She understood that mastery was an ongoing process, one that required dedication, patience, and a willingness to learn from every experience. Her growth was also visible to those around her. Her parents saw the determination and passion in her eyes, and her teacher noted the maturity and expressiveness in her playing. Friends and neighbors who listened to her performances began to recognize her talent and dedication. Their encouragement reinforced her belief in her abilities and inspired her to continue pursuing greater opportunities. Through this journey, she also learned the importance of resilience. There were moments of self-doubt, nervousness, and mistakes, but she discovered that facing these challenges head-on made her stronger. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to perform despite it. Each performance, whether in a small room or a large hall, was a step toward becoming the musician she aspired to be. She began to dream of performing in even larger venues, imagining herself on grand stages with audiences from around the world. The thought was both thrilling and intimidating, but it motivated her to continue practicing, learning, and growing. She embraced the challenges ahead, knowing that each new experience would bring valuable lessons and opportunities for improvement. At the same time, she remained humble and grounded. She valued the support of her family, the guidance of her teacher, and the small joys in everyday life. She understood that success was not only measured by recognition or awards, but also by the joy of creating music and the ability to touch others with it. She sought to maintain balance, nurturing her passion while staying connected to the world around her. As the young pianist continued to pursue her dream, she became increasingly aware of the power of music to inspire and connect people. She saw how her performances could evoke emotions, tell stories, and create shared experiences. She felt a growing sense of responsibility to play with integrity, passion, and heart, knowing that her music could have a meaningful impact on those who listened. The heroic Polonaise had become more than just a challenging piece. It was a symbol of her journey, her growth, and her dedication. Every note, every phrase, and every dynamic carried lessons about perseverance, expression, and courage. She embraced these lessons fully, letting them guide her in every practice session and performance. With each performance, each competition, and each moment at the piano, she continued to grow as a musician and as a person. She understood that the path ahead would bring new challenges, but she felt ready to face them. Her love for music, combined with her determination and passion, fueled her ambition and inspired her to reach higher. Through this journey, the young pianist learned that greatness was not only about talent, but also about dedication, resilience, and the willingness to embrace challenges. She discovered that music was a powerful tool for self-expression, connection, and personal growth. She felt inspired to continue her journey, knowing that the story of her music was still unfolding, with many chapters yet to be written. As she sat at her piano each day, practicing, dreaming, and performing, she felt a sense of purpose and joy. She knew that her journey with Chopin's heroic Polonaise was shaping her not only as a pianist, but also as a person capable of facing challenges, expressing emotions, and inspiring others. The music had become a part of her, guiding her, challenging her, and helping her grow. And with each note she played, she moved closer to the dreams she had long held in her heart, ready to share her gift with the world. Months passed, and the young pianist continued to grow in both skill and confidence. She had become deeply connected to Chopin's heroic Polonaise, understanding not just the notes and rhythms, but the emotions and story that lay within. Each practice session was a journey, and each performance brought new lessons. She felt ready for bigger challenges, opportunities that would test her abilities on a larger scale and in front of audiences beyond her town. One day, her teacher mentioned a national competition taking place in a major city. The competition was prestigious, attracting talented musicians from all over the country. It was a level she had not yet experienced, and the thought both excited and terrified her. She knew that preparing for this would require more dedication, focus, and resilience than ever before. The stakes were higher, and the audience would be larger, but she also saw it as a chance to truly share her music with the world. Her parents supported her decision, understanding that this opportunity could be a turning point in her musical journey. They offered to help with travel expenses and logistics, even though it meant sacrifices on their part. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for their unwavering support, knowing that their belief in her dreams gave her strength and courage. She promised herself that she would honor their sacrifices by giving her best performance. Preparation for the competition was intense. She spent countless hours at the piano, breaking the Polonaise into sections and perfecting each one. She recorded herself and listened carefully, identifying areas that needed improvement. She worked on dynamics, phrasing, and emotional expression, making sure that every note conveyed the power and passion of the piece. Sometimes, frustration would creep in when a passage seemed too difficult or her fingers tired from long practice sessions, but she pushed through, motivated by her love for music and her dream of performing on a bigger stage. As the day of the competition approached, she felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. She packed her things carefully, making sure to bring sheet music, practice notes, and everything she would need. Her family accompanied her, offering encouragement and reassurance. The journey to the city was filled with quiet conversations about music, dreams, and the challenges she had overcome to reach this point. She felt a growing sense of determination and readiness. Arriving at the competition hall, she was amazed by its size and grandeur. The stage was large, the piano polished and shining, and the audience seating stretched far back. The hall was filled with talented young musicians, their parents, teachers, and judges. The atmosphere was intense, and she felt a flutter of nerves. Yet, she reminded herself of all the preparation and practice she had done. She knew she had the ability to perform well, and she focused on the music, not the pressure. When her name was called, she walked to the stage with her heart pounding. She adjusted the piano bench, sat down, and took a deep breath. The lights were bright, and the audience was watching intently. She placed her hands on the keys and began the opening chords of the heroic Polonaise. From the very first notes, she felt a connection to the music, a flow that carried her through the performance. Each passage, each chord, and each arpeggio was executed with precision and feeling. The audience was captivated. They listened in silence, drawn into the energy, drama, and emotion of the Polonaise. The young pianist allowed herself to be fully immersed in the music, letting her fingers express the courage, determination, and triumph that the piece embodied. She moved seamlessly through the challenging sections, her confidence growing with each measure. The music became a story, told through her hands, and the audience responded with rapt attention. As the performance reached its climax, she played with boldness and grace. Her fingers flew over the keys, her arms moving with strength and fluidity. The dramatic moments were powerful, yet she balanced them with passages of subtlety and expression. The hall seemed to hold its collective breath, sensing the depth and intensity of her playing. She realized that the Polonaise was not just a test of technical skill, but a vehicle for conveying emotion, for touching hearts and inspiring those who listened. When the final notes faded, there was a brief silence, followed by thunderous applause. The audience rose to their feet, cheering and clapping in admiration. She felt a rush of relief, joy, and pride. Her parents hugged her tightly, their eyes shining with pride. Her teacher smiled, knowing that all the preparation and hard work had culminated in a truly remarkable performance. Fellow competitors approached, congratulating her on her artistry and skill. The young pianist felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had shared her music and connected with the audience in a meaningful way. The judges praised her performance, noting the maturity, expression, and technical mastery she had displayed. They highlighted how she had captured the spirit of the Polonaise, conveying both its power and subtlety. Though the competition was fierce, the young pianist felt that the experience itself was invaluable. She understood that performing on such a stage was about growth, learning, and sharing music, not just winning. After returning home, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. She thought about the countless hours of practice, the moments of frustration, the small victories, and the encouragement of her family and teachers. She realized that each step had shaped her, not only as a musician but as a person. She felt grateful for the challenges she had faced and the lessons she had learned, understanding that perseverance and dedication were as important as talent. In the weeks that followed, she continued to practice and refine her Polonaise. She explored new interpretations, experimented with phrasing and dynamics, and focused on emotional expression. She sought to deepen her understanding of the music and to develop her own style, one that was true to her personality and vision. She knew that the journey of a musician was never complete, and each performance was an opportunity to grow and improve. Her growing reputation as a talented young pianist began to attract attention beyond her town. Local newspapers featured her story, highlighting her dedication, passion, and skill. Music teachers and mentors from other cities reached out, offering guidance and opportunities for further development. She felt inspired and encouraged, realizing that her hard work was opening doors to new experiences and possibilities. At the same time, she remained humble and grounded. She valued her family, the support of her teacher, and the simple joys of everyday life. She continued to balance her studies, practice, and personal time, understanding that a well-rounded life was essential for both happiness and artistic growth. Her love for music remained the driving force, guiding her choices and motivating her to continue pursuing her dreams. The experience of performing at the national competition taught her valuable lessons about resilience, courage, and self-belief. She learned that facing challenges, embracing nerves, and trusting her preparation were essential to performing at her best. She also realized the importance of connecting with the audience, conveying emotion, and sharing her story through music. These lessons would guide her in all future performances. As she looked ahead, she dreamed of performing on international stages, sharing her music with audiences around the world. She imagined the lights, the grand halls, and the collective experience of music bringing people together. The thought both thrilled and motivated her, reinforcing her commitment to practice, study, and growth. She knew that her journey was just beginning and that many opportunities lay ahead, waiting for her dedication and passion. The heroic Polonaise had become more than just a piece of music. It was a symbol of her journey, her determination, and her growth as a musician. Each note, phrase, and dynamic carried lessons about perseverance, expression, and courage. She embraced these lessons, knowing that they would guide her in every performance and every step of her musical path. Through dedication, focus, and passion, the young pianist continued to develop her skills and artistry. She understood that success was not only measured by awards or recognition but also by the ability to convey emotion, connect with audiences, and continue learning. She felt inspired to pursue her dreams with determination, knowing that the journey itself was as meaningful as the achievements it brought. Each time she sat at the piano, she felt a renewed sense of purpose and joy. She knew that her journey with Chopin's heroic Polonaise had shaped her into a musician capable of expressing profound emotions and telling stories through music. She felt ready to embrace future challenges, confident that her love for music, combined with her dedication and resilience, would guide her toward even greater accomplishments. With every note she played, she moved closer to her dreams, inspired to share her gift with the world and continue her remarkable journey. After months of preparation, practice, and performing in competitions, the young pianist's life began to change. Her talent and dedication had started to attract attention beyond her small town and even beyond her country. She received invitations to perform in music festivals, recitals, and workshops in different cities. The idea of traveling and sharing her music with larger audiences filled her with both excitement and anticipation. She knew that these opportunities would challenge her in new ways, but she also felt ready to embrace them. Her parents were proud yet cautious. They understood that traveling and performing on bigger stages could be overwhelming, but they trusted her talent and determination. They continued to support her in every way, ensuring she had the resources, encouragement, and care she needed. Her younger sibling looked up to her with admiration, inspired by her dedication and the way she pursued her dreams with focus and passion. She felt a deep sense of responsibility to honor the trust and love of her family through her performances. The first invitation was to a prestigious music festival in a city she had never visited. She traveled with her family and teacher, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. The city was bustling and unfamiliar, but it held a sense of possibility that filled her with energy. She practiced each day in her hotel room, adjusting to a new piano and a new environment. Each practice session helped her grow more confident, and she focused on delivering a performance that would showcase both her technical skill and emotional expression. The day of the performance arrived. The festival hall was filled with music lovers, teachers, and students from around the country. The stage was large, and the piano gleamed under the bright lights. As she walked onto the stage, her heart pounded with anticipation, but she reminded herself of all the hours she had spent practicing and the love she had for the music. She sat down, placed her hands on the keys, and began the heroic Polonaise. From the first powerful chords, she felt the music flow through her. The audience was captivated by the intensity, courage, and emotion she conveyed. She moved seamlessly through the demanding passages, her fingers agile and precise, yet expressive and full of feeling. The music was alive, and she became completely immersed, forgetting her nerves and focusing only on the story she wanted to tell. She felt connected to the audience, knowing that the Polonaise was a bridge between her emotions and theirs. The middle sections were filled with flowing melodies and subtle expressions. She paid close attention to dynamics, phrasing, and emotion, ensuring that each note contributed to the overall story. She remembered her teacher's guidance about storytelling in music and applied it fully. Each passage conveyed triumph, struggle, and hope, drawing the audience deeper into the experience. The connection between her and the music was palpable, and the audience responded with quiet attention, completely absorbed in her performance. As the climax of the Polonaise approached, she played with boldness and passion. Her fingers moved swiftly, yet gracefully, across the keys, and the powerful chords echoed through the hall. The audience could feel the energy, strength, and emotion she expressed. They were captivated not only by her technical mastery but by the story she told through her music. When the final note rang out, there was a moment of silence, followed by thunderous applause. She felt a rush of emotion, proud and grateful for the response from the audience. After the performance, she received praise from the festival organizers, fellow musicians, and audience members. They admired her technique, expression, and the emotional depth of her playing. She felt a mix of relief, happiness, and motivation. Each performance became a learning experience, reinforcing her love for music and her desire to continue growing. She realized that sharing her gift with others was a joy in itself, beyond any awards or recognition. Over the following months, she continued to travel, perform, and learn. She met musicians from different backgrounds and cultures, exchanging ideas and experiences. These encounters inspired her, expanding her understanding of music and performance. She began to see music as a universal language, capable of connecting people across distances, languages, and cultures. Her performances were no longer just about technical skill. They were about communication, emotion, and shared experiences. Despite her growing recognition, she remained humble and grounded. She valued her family, her teacher, and the simple joys of life. She continued her studies, balanced her practice with personal time, and cherished moments of quiet reflection. She understood that the journey of a musician was ongoing, and each experience contributed to her growth. She embraced challenges, knowing that they would make her stronger, more expressive, and more capable of touching hearts through her music. Her performances began to receive media attention. Local and national outlets highlighted her dedication, skill, and unique ability to convey emotion through music. They praised the young Japanese pianist who had begun to break boundaries with her interpretation of Chopin's heroic Polonaise. She felt inspired by the recognition but remained focused on the music itself. She knew that true fulfillment came from the act of creating and sharing music, not just the accolades that followed. Through every new opportunity, she learned the importance of resilience, discipline, and courage. She faced moments of doubt, nerves, and fatigue, but she discovered that persistence and self-belief allowed her to overcome these obstacles. Each performance, whether large or small, taught her valuable lessons about focus, expression, and connecting with an audience. She realized that her journey was not only about personal growth, but also about inspiring others to pursue their passions with dedication. Her story began to inspire young musicians in her town and beyond. Students who had been hesitant to pursue their own musical dreams saw her example and felt encouraged to practice, perform, and strive for excellence. She received letters and messages from young pianists expressing admiration and gratitude for her performances. She felt a profound sense of responsibility to continue sharing her music with authenticity and passion, knowing that it could motivate and uplift others. Over time, she began to understand that breaking boundaries was not just about achieving personal success. It was about challenging expectations, embracing opportunities, and sharing her gift in a way that touched people's hearts. She realized that music could transcend age, culture, and circumstance, creating moments of connection and inspiration. Her journey was a testament to the power of dedication, passion, and the courage to pursue one's dreams. As she looked toward the future, she dreamed of performing on international stages, collaborating with renowned musicians, and continuing to develop her artistry. She understood that each step, each performance, and each challenge was part of a larger journey, one that would shape her both as a pianist and as a person. She embraced this path with enthusiasm, knowing that her love for music and her determination would guide her toward new achievements. Through it all, she remained grounded in the lessons she had learned from her family, teachers, and the music itself. She knew that success was not only about talent but about perseverance, humility, and the willingness to grow continuously. The heroic Polonaise had been a guiding force in her life, teaching her about strength, expression, and the power of sharing one's gift with the world. Sitting at her piano each day, she reflected on her journey and the growth she had experienced. She felt grateful for the opportunities, challenges, and support that had shaped her path. She recognized that her story was ongoing, with new chapters waiting to be written through her performances, collaborations, and continued learning. Each note she played, each audience she reached, and each challenge she faced became a part of her evolving journey. The young pianist had transformed from a small-town girl with a passion for music into a musician capable of inspiring and connecting with people on a larger stage. Her dedication, resilience, and love for music had opened doors, created opportunities, and touched countless hearts. She knew that her journey was far from over, but she felt ready to embrace every challenge and opportunity that lay ahead. With determination in her heart and Chopin's heroic Polonaise guiding her fingers, she continued to practice, perform, and grow. She understood that the path of a musician was not always easy, but it was filled with moments of beauty, connection, and fulfillment. She was determined to share her gift with the world, to inspire others, and to continue breaking boundaries through the power of music. Every performance became a chance to express herself, connect with her audience, and demonstrate the dedication and passion that had brought her to this point. She felt confident that her journey would continue to evolve, bringing new experiences, challenges, and triumphs. The young pianist had discovered not only her talent, but also the transformative power of music, and she embraced the future with hope, courage, and unwavering dedication. Her story, once just a dream in a small town, had become a living testament to what perseverance, passion, and love for music could achieve. And it was only the beginning of a remarkable journey that would continue to unfold.